Hello, Eric. This is my feedback to your presentation, to your draft. Now, first of all, just looking at it, the design is very good. The template, the way you use the space in the slides is very nice. Now, as far as the content of what you're actually going to say in the presentation, remember, it's only 7 minutes because out of the 10 minutes, 3 minutes is for Q&A, 1 minute is for summary and conclusions, and you only have 6 minutes left. And those are basically equally divided up into two segments. One is self-introduction, and the other one is you need to discuss two sources. But even when you discuss the two sources, you're not really talking about content so much. You will mention obviously a bit of content, but most of it is how these sources helped shape your interest in the topic. So for instance, you can say something like, I was very interested in researching the energy sector in Kyrgyzstan, and I read this source, and it really opened my eyes. It gave me a new direction in my research. I realized that the issue is more complicated, and I realized blah blah blah. So yes, there will be a bit of content, but you will frame that discussion slightly differently. It's not going to be content heavy. It's not going to be issue centered. It will be centered around you and your interest, and how that source was helpful to point you in the right direction, to inspire you, to shape your interest in the topic. That's what you should be discussing. And all of this should be included in the outline, which I'm not seeing here. First of all, you need an outline. You need a slide which says outline, which basically outlines all the following slides in the presentation. The first one is self-introduction. Not introduction to the Eurasian Union. It's an introduction to you as a researcher. People even put pictures. You could put your photo if you want to. Where you've studied, what your interest is, what are your future goals, your ambitions, what do you want to do with all this research. It's all about you, right? It's not an introduction to an issue. It's an introduction to you as a researcher. I like the flags, I like everything here, but this is again centered around the content, whereas it should be about you. Now this is good. The space is very well used here. I would though, I would use bullet points instead of horizontal lines like that. See these whole sentences here? You don't want the audience to be reading, right? These are whole sentences. You don't want that. You want bullet points. So Eurasian studies, that's it. That's your interest. Eurasian studies, colon, particularly economics and political science. That's it. Here, you can say that. You don't have to write it. You can say EAEU understudied. That's it. Or not a lot of research, or scarcity of research. That's all. I think it's an important thing to say because that's where you come in. It hasn't been studied enough. That's great. But you don't want to write a sentence, just a bullet point like vertical. So instead of horizontal lines of text, it should be vertical like that, vertical bullet points. Okay? Again, the same thing here. You don't want long sentences. Again, the same here. I really like the slide design. This is all very nice. Not too many words, not too much, but you do need to reduce this kind of thing. You see? This is good. I like this. But this is not good. It's too long, and you don't want the audience listening to you and also having to read at the same time. Okay? Just all you need to do is just say cooperation. You can mention the Eurasian Economic Treaty, but it really is not so important. What's more important is these nations need to cooperate. That's it. You don't need to tell people about the treaty in 2014. This is Wikipedia kind of detail. You don't have time for this in this presentation. You should try to interest the audience, and it's a non-specialist audience. So very nice slides, but they should be redesigned with bullet points. Okay. Same thing here. Just long text. You don't need this. Now here, instead of Kyrgyzstan energy features, remember, it's the presentation is not about the issue. It's about you. So you already here you should be talking about in your title you should say overview of source 1 or something like that. And then you should be talking about a specific source and how. So for instance here, overview of source 1, this is the source, and you can say this source really opened my eye. Up until that moment I did not realize that Kyrgyzstan had such an enormous renewable energy potential. I thought of it as a small country which relies mostly on this and that. I realize now, having read this source, that this really Kyrgyzstan has potential. I think more, and from in the future I will be doing more research in that area. This kind of area has been understudied. That's the discussion you're going to have. You're not going to be talking about gas 98%, coal 59%. This is Wikipedia stuff. You want to interest the audience. Look, this is the research about Kyrgyzstan. I'm going to do that. I read this source and it really inspired me to research in a new direction. You see, that's the kind of thing you should say. And the slide design, the slide title should be discussion of source 1 or overview of source 1, whatever you want to say. Okay. After that, your next slide should be discussion of source 2. If you're using two sources, you can use one if you want to, but you should use at least one and no more than two. And there should be a visual aid. I did not see an effective visual aid in any of this. This is fine, but it's just the breakdown of the energy. I'm not so sure that it's that inspiring. This is very uninspiring. Just a table, and again, you don't even need that information. You're not going to talk about that. I think it's better to make your own. Just find a way to make this maybe into a pie chart. That would be interesting. And then you can say adapt it from or whatever. Something like that. So then when you've discussed the second source, if you discuss two sources, you will say, okay, that's your conclusion. But again, not text, should be bullet points. And then your references, and that's enough. And then there is the Q&A section. All of this should be in an outline slide. Everything should be explained. These flags look amazing, but I don't think you would need that in your particular presentation. If you want to, just include a little kind of thing here in one of your slides. All these flags kind of put together. You don't even need to explain who is what, because I think everybody knows this, and the other ones. I think people know these flags, and even if they don't, it doesn't matter. Just put those slides like that. Those flags, they're just taking too much space, and you don't really need a separate slide for this. If you want to create a nice visual aid with the flags, you can. You can just kind of rearrange them in a kind of a cool way, like a bunch of flowers or something, like a cluster of flags close together in a circle or in whatever. That's fine. You can do that. And you can put the names maybe on top of each flag, then kind of like imagine a circle like that, and then Kazakhstan on top, Russia here, Belarus here, Armenia here, and Kyrgyzstan. But because the presentation about Kyrgyzstan, you might want to make the Kyrgyzstan flag, I don't know, somehow focus on that. I'm not sure. You could find a way, but you don't need a separate slide for that. It could be just, if you have free space somewhere, you could redesign it in that way, if you want to. So again, go to the guidelines. The first 3 minutes is about you. The second 3 minutes is discussion of sources and how they point you in the right direction, and then you're concluding. And that's it. No sentences, no chunks of text, mostly bullet points. And if you can create a nice visual aid, that would be great. And then you'll have to cite the visual aid. You'll say adapted from, or whatever the APA style of citation is. These visual aids are not that great. I mean, they're cool, they look good, but there's not a lot of critical thinking, let's put it that way, into making these visual aids. And again, a lot of it is Wikipedia information. So I hope this is helpful. I would suggest practicing the presentation in separate components. First 3 minutes, practice what you're going to say about yourself, your future goals, your interests, your research. Second 3 minutes, practice what are you going to say about the two sources. Mostly make it slow delivery. Pauses, a lot of nice intonation. A lot of nice intonation. Pauses, not fast. You shouldn't be swallowing your words. Just very, very slow. Good tone, good intonation. Sorry, my computer is telling me I need to recharge it. Good tone, good intonation, that kind of thing. Really practice your delivery and focus on that. You can think of it as a kind of an extended elevator pitch. It's more about drawing people in, convincing them that this is an interesting topic, a lot more than it is about just throwing content at them. 98% is this, 59% is that. You see, you may be better off just making a nice pie chart and saying, look, right now a lot of it is import, right? But they actually have quite a potential. They could service all their needs with hydropower if they need to. So that needs to be researched. You see, that kind of language for non-specialists, maybe a pie chart would be good here. Okay. If you want to discuss this further, we can set up a time next week. But I would recommend just practice. Now, maybe if you're looking at 29% plagiarism, that's not plagiarism. That's basically your reference list. So you have 0 plagiarism. You shouldn't worry about that. Everything is good here. So you will not get points deducted for that. So I know you can do very well. Just follow the guidelines. And once again, do not talk too fast about content. That's not what this is about. Okay? Good luck, Eric. I wish you all the best in the presentation.